Are you wondering what's going on in the Montgomery County, Maryland real estate market? Well, you've come to the right place. Today, I'm going to start out with a quick review of an article that I just read in Fortune magazine that'll give you sort of a 10,000-foot view on what's happening in the national real estate news. Then I'm going to drill down and look at some local numbers that you need to know to understand what's happening right here in Montgomery County. So let's dive right in. Okay, so here we go with a quick overview on this article that I just read in Fortune magazine, written by Lance Lambert today. And it opens with the fact that John Burns Real Estate Consulting told Fortune back in July that they felt that the top of the market had been reached at that particular time. There were a lot of people who disagreed with that, mostly focused on the ultra low inventory, which inventory is still very low. Fast forward to October, it's clear that John Burns got it right, and that the latest reading of the Case-Shiller Index shows that home prices fell 1.3% between June and August. And this is the first national decline in housing prices since 2012. Now, one thing to note, as they say here, is that it's not a one-size-fits-all housing correction. Real estate is a very local business. Always has been, always will be. And as you can see, of the markets that Case-Shiller tracks, the difference in depreciation is between 0.1% to 8.24%. But let's take a look at the map. Let me get this lined up so we can see most of the country. So as you can see, the dark red are the markets with the who win the booby prize, I guess you'd call it, for the highest rates of depreciation. San Francisco, Seattle, San Diego. But if you look over on the East Coast and in the Midwest, you can see that the rates of depreciation are much lower. Boston at 1.1, New York at 0.4, and the DC Metro at 1.9. So let's keep scrolling down. And one of the things to keep in mind, particularly about San Francisco, is there's sort of two industries that are very interest rate sensitive that are at play here. One is the real estate industry, and the other is venture capital. And there's a lot of VC money in San Francisco, a lot of high-tech jobs, and you put those two things together, and so San Francisco is sort of leading the country in the change in the market dynamic. The rest of the country, things are milder. Depreciation is lower. Appreciation in many markets was lower than in a lot of the West and the Sun Belt markets. Another thing to keep in mind about some of the cities in the Sun Belt is that there was a very strong market presence of builders, new construction, and iBuyers, corporate buyers coming in and buying large chunks of property, big hedge funds looking for large chunks of rental property. Those are not so much involved in our local real estate market. And here's another interesting map. You can see the shift in home prices between March 2020 and August of 2022. And you can see the markets that saw much higher, or the really high rates of appreciation: Phoenix, Dallas, Charlotte. Not so much San Francisco, although pretty high. And Seattle was a good bit higher. There are a lot of smaller markets that had even higher rates of appreciation, but they don't show up on the Case-Shiller survey. And looking over on the East Coast, you can see Boston at 35, New York at 35, and DC at 26. So that's about it for this particular article. So now let's jump over to the Altos Research page, and we'll go through what's happening in our local market. So let's start out with the Market Action Index, the speedometer. I had somebody ask me in the comments last week if I could explain the speedometer. Well, basically, it's something that Altos Research has created to illustrate the balance between supply and demand. So they use a variety of different data points, put together an algorithm, and this is what they use to show how the market's sort of trending at the moment. And as you can see, you've got the buyer's market. The dividing line between a buyer's market and a seller's market is 30. So that's the white line right there. The speedometer has actually moved up just a touch. It's now at 56. Instead of last month, it was at 54. So still a good, strong seller's market at the moment, according to this. Now, again, this is for detached single-family homes in Montgomery County, Maryland. So now we'll hop over to the real-time market profile and take a quick look at a couple of the key stats here. First, we'll look at median list price. You can see that it's at $774 and that it's been sort of bumping along in the middle sevens for a couple of months now. It was higher back in July. It was $824. And the median price of new listings, as you can see, it's $689, and it's been going up and down and up and down. But largely for the past 6 weeks or so, has been hovering in the low sevens, high sixes. Median days on market has been right at 35 days since back at the end of August. And price decreases. Now, this is certainly an indicator of what's happening in the market and the change in the market since the spring. You can see back in July, it was at 32, and I'll just scroll down here for a moment and show you the big chart for price decreases. So if you go back to the low point here back in April, it was at 16%. But as you can see, we are now sitting at 38%, and it's been sort of hovering in the middle 30 range for about 6 weeks now or so. Then we've got inventory. You can see that we're at 686, again, detached single-family homes in Montgomery County. There was a little blip up a few weeks ago, back at the beginning of October. But inventory's been sort of in that 600 to 700 range for a number of months now. And the last thing we'll look at is what's been happening with the market action index over the last 90 days. So you can see we're at 56 now. It's been pretty level in the 50s. But back at on July 15th, it was at 74. And the highest point this year was in April when it was pegged at 100. So you're probably wondering, what do all these numbers mean? Well, if we look at the early part of the year, it was a white-hot market. There was really low supply and very high demand. Then, as we moved into the late spring and summer and interest rates started to click up, we transitioned into a red-hot market. Things were still very active. Interest rates were up, but not as high as they are now. Now what we're really seeing is what I would call a transitional market. So, and it's driven by a couple of things. First, it's driven by interest rates, absolutely. Now that they're up at 7% or even a little over, that gives buyers pause. Also, though, part of it is seasonality. We're really at the end of the fall season. We're heading into the holidays, at the beginning of November. And historically, that is a time when the market starts to cool off. Anyway, I'll actually show you on my next market update some graphs looking back at what happens in the fall consistently year over year for the past 10 years. And I think that might help you sort of give you a little perspective about how that fits into what's happening at the moment. But if you look at the balance of supply and demand, you look at the numbers now, it hasn't changed dramatically in the past few months. Buyers are more hesitant. There is definitely some pullback from them, but it hasn't really started to show in a ballooning of inventory like you're seeing in a lot of other markets. So we'll keep an eye and see what's going on, and I'll certainly let you know as I do my future updates. If you'd like access to this up-to-date information for yourself, you can click on the link below, type in your name, email address, and the zip code that you'd like to follow, and we'll get it set right up for you. Once you've got access to it, you can check out other zip codes in the area or anywhere around the country in case you've got real estate somewhere else or you're thinking about making a move. If you'd like to see a recent video that I did on one of our Montgomery County neighborhoods, you can click over here. And if you'd like to subscribe to my channel so you'll get updated whenever new videos come out, click over there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.